Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for the last issue of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic. Now, it doesn't wrap up the main story. Technically, the last overall issue for the Darkest Hour event, as well as the overall story, is going to be a one-shot issue that releases after this. But this is the last regular issue in the long-running Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic that split off at one point, it bi-generated, and then it came back together. But this is meant to be that issue. And, you know, it was a solid-ish issue, but it definitely felt anticlimactic. I think it's because, obviously, it's setting up the main one-shot, which is the true ending, but I expected it to feel a little bit more impactful. Like, it was very much feeling like a setup episode in a TV series, which isn't a bad thing, and because you're going to be ending on a cliffhanger, and they even said that at the beginning, you're going to end up having that, but I thought it was going to feel more like a complete issue with a cliffhanger, if that makes any sense. I feel like Shattered Grid did a good job of that, where the last issue felt like impactful and full and exciting, and then you had the final like Shattered Grid one-shot. Not that there was bad stuff here, it just felt a little bit small. Like, you're dealing with some of the consequences of Billy and his decision, which was interesting, you know, reminding me kind of before when he had the fallout with Zordon, but there was some interesting stuff there, especially when you really think about the fact that he shattered a part of the grid just like what happened in Shattered Grid, but for a good reason, kind of tying it all back to that major event, which is interesting there. You have some of the fallout with the other characters with that as well. I'll be interested to see like where he ends up in the status quo of just the team and everything by the end, not to mention just the status quo of the world. It feels like we're in for another like New 52 rebirth reset type of thing going on, so who knows what'll happen after this. You also have Ranger Slayer talking with the Solar Rangers, because you know they initially captured her, and she's trying to get them to cooperate so that they can use the Zeo Crystal Planet like energy to amplify their morph, and there's some nice scenes there with them, and she ultimately agrees to it, obviously. There's also a couple nice scenes of like Jason training the civilian Rangers and all that stuff. I really like seeing them still involved in that. Probably my favorite part of the issue was when Chloe arrives with kind of the Ranger Cavalry with all these different Rangers from throughout time, and she encounters her dad again, who appeared a while back, and I mistook him for the evil Andros from the Draken New Dawn comic, because I was waiting for us to follow up on that story. I feel like that ended on a cliffhanger as well that I thought we were going to follow up on, and then he looked so similar, and I honestly forgot about Chloe's dad, but I really liked seeing that scene, not because it was like, oh, it's a bunch of Rangers, just because I like the Hyperforce Rangers, and just seeing their little bits of dialogue, like with Chloe and Eddie, like, oh, what's going on? He's like, don't have time to explain. It's just, I don't know, I could hear their voices from the RPG there, and it just felt like in the spirit of Hyperforce for a few seconds, and I really liked that bit. Also, small side note, I really do like the Solar Rangers designs. I've said in the past that I prefer, which I do, the Beyond the Grid team ones, which are the ones that are all different and stuff, because they take on kind of the echoes of their previous powers. But now seeing kind of some of the regular ones post that, they are really cool, and they did differentiate it more. At least, maybe I don't remember the original ones being as differentiated, but I think they're really underrated and overhated suits. And it's also super cool to see like other Rangers that are like alien on that team. I think that's overall really neat. Yeah, but then we end off the issue with Solar Ranger agreeing and kind of stepping into it, and she's doing some sort of morph with, seemingly some sort of morph with the Zeo Crystal Planet to amplify it, and it kind of just leaves off there. Like I said, it's very much a setup feeling stuff, like a setup feeling issue. I mean, again, the stuff was good in it. I liked the scenes with Billy and Zordon and Billy and the other Rangers and the sort of mistrust there. Like, this was such a big deal. I'm going to be curious if it pays off. They definitely hammer home a lot about consequences, you know, obviously. I mean, in general, however they solved this, I can't imagine things will go back exactly the same. So I'll be curious what those consequences are for Billy, like in terms of his personal stakes, but also what he did. Is that going to cause any other kind of damage? I mean, things were already kind of damaged. Some really good setup scenes. It just felt kind of small for like the last issue. Like, I know we're having the big one-shot, which is the real final issue, but I was kind of hoping this would feel more like a really cool part one, whereas instead it just kind of felt like a few pages out of a setup issue. And even then, like, the call to action wasn't anything super exciting. Like, I'm curious to see how it ends, but yeah, it was an alright issue. Definitely looking forward to the one-shot and seeing how this event ends and how the overall comic ends. As I'm recording this, we're about to have Comic-Con on the weekend, and we should be getting some news there. I'm very curious what's next for Boom, because when we first heard that this was winding down, it seemed like maybe they were going to let go of the license, but then they announced, you know, we have that Across the Grid thing, we have that Unagi crossover or whatever it is, and then they've said that they have more announcements, so I'm curious, like, what, if anything, will take over as the main series. But anyways, guys, until next time, let me know what you thought of this issue. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.